With an open scholarship left behind by Trey Parker, we got Kevin Keatts in the kitchen singing some Meek Mill. Y'all thought he was finished?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Locked On Wolfpack. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. When you enter the promo code in all caps, Locked On College, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. As always, I'm Grayson Boone. This is Kenton Gibbs. And Kenton, we had another addition to this basketball team yet again. I feel like every time I go to make a finalized roster or scholarship situation, we have a new change. I think this is maybe the last change we'll see before the season tips off. But we have Kam Woods now joining us by way of North Carolina A&T. This was, I guess, the biggest basketball news from this past weekend. The scholarship left behind with Trey Parker deciding to reclassify to 2024. Kevin Keatts wasted absolutely zero time in getting that spot filled with the addition of Kam Woods. Kenton, what were your initial thoughts when you saw this come across the airways?
You know, when you think of additions in June, you're thinking of players who are on the island of misfit toys. You're thinking of players who there's something wrong. They've been some type of malcontent. They have serious turnover issues. They can't make the cut academically, something along those lines as to like, why are you still in the portal at this time? And Kam Woods doesn't meet any of those criteria. I mean, this is a young man that is as far as I've seen, a phenomenal scorer. I would go as far as to say I would go as far as likening him to a poor man's Terquavion Smith, in that when he's filling it up, he is filling it up. He can hit the bottom of the net like nobody's business. And so to bring a guy like that on at this point in the season, that's massive. That's massive if you ask me.
Yeah, so I guess the elephant in the room with Kam Woods is the understanding that he will have to obtain a waiver to be eligible for this year once the season kicks off in the fall of 23. Kam, this is his fourth year college. His first year was at Troy, then took actually a JUCO year. He was a JUCO national champion with Northwest Florida State College, then made his way over to North Carolina A&T, where he spent his third year college basketball, and now he joins us here in Raleigh. So with him already being at two four-year schools and this being his third, he will need a waiver / a hardship waiver to be eligible for this year. I don't know the possibilities of that. I mean, I think we'll certainly try, but I'm not so sure that's something we'll be able to achieve here by the time the season comes around.
Here's what bodes well for him. More often than not, if there is a coaching change, the committee who is or the folks who are responsible for approving those are much more lenient than if not. And with that being said, Monte Ross, who has been bought in as the coach of North Carolina A&T, was bought in April 10th of this year. So that's after the season, or that's basically tail end of the season if you didn't make the tournament. And I'm just saying, there's the argument there for, hey, there was a change in coaches. This is not the coach he signed up to play for, yada, yada, so on and so forth. There's a chance. There's a chance. I'm not guaranteeing that he gets this waiver. I'm not saying Wolfpack Nation expect to see him suit up this year, but there's a window there. There's an opportunity.
Yeah, but I want to circle back here to your point about potentially being a poor man's Terquavion Smith. That's actually something we talked about before we pressed the record button, and I definitely agree. You know, just kind of combing through his stat lines, his first year at Troy, he averaged about 10 points, 3 boards, and like an assist and a half. And this was on about 35% shooting, 28% from 3. You fast forward to this past year with the Aggies, and he's shooting about 17 points a game, 4-ish rebounds a game, and about 3.5 assists a game. That kind of jump is a little bit of what we saw from Terquavion Smith from year 1 to year 2. And Kam is a player that can certainly fill it up if you allow him to run out there and do so. I think a bit similar to Terquavion, there's a couple metrics and where you would like to see a bit higher efficiency. So I think, if some tinkering, some continued practice in this new system with Keatts, I think Kam could be an extremely dangerous player whenever it is he does make it onto the court. This past year, I saw a couple people point out against these higher level teams that he saw with North Carolina A&T by way of, or for example, Iowa. He had 18 points on Iowa. He put 26 on Houston, which was widely considered to be one of the best teams in college basketball this past year. Did you get that fly?
I apologize. It was a fly. Yeah.
And then College of Charleston, who was also ranked for most of the year, he put 30 on them. So against these teams with high caliber defenses, he's able to pull his weight and then some. He's able to put the ball in the basket. So, there are some things you probably like him to clean up. I know turnover rate is probably a bit higher than you would like from a shooting guard, but you get these things tied up, maybe these loose ends, and we could be looking at something dangerous here in Kam Woods when he does make it to the floor. So I think this is about as good as you could have hoped Keatts could do with this open scholarship spot kind of left open all of a sudden. Other than our coaching staff, I'm not sure who, if literally anyone, had this on their radar. I don't think there's a single NC State fan that had any inkling that this is a possibility, just 4 or 5 days ago. So it certainly caught me by surprise, especially how quickly this happened. And so credit to Keatts and the coaching staff for jumping all over this when they were presented with the opportunity. But I think this is a great addition, and certainly hope that he can be a big piece to this team moving forward.
And let me let you in on some context on how good those performances that you just mentioned from Cam Hayes were. Okay.
Kam Woods, not Cam Hayes.
Kam Woods. I'm sorry. I don't. Hey, Kam Hayes, best of luck at ECU. More power to you, buddy. Do great. Knock him dead out there. Now, to Kam Woods, who's going to be wearing the red and white next year. Let me tell you a little bit about Kam Woods and those performances which you specifically referenced. Against Iowa was what you would say is his worst performance of the 3, right? Because he has 18 points, 6 turnovers, and he only shot 37% from the field, 2 of 9 from deep. But you still said 18 points on the board, right? But let's go to the Houston game. Houston, he scores 26 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists in that game, 3 steals as well, on 55% from the floor, 37.5% from deep. It gets more impressive. He scored 26 points, right? How many do you think A&T scored in that game?
I actually already know the answer to this. It's 46 in total.
This young man was the focal point of the defense. If you watch that game, they're saying, hey, anybody besides this guy gets off, we're okay with that. And he was still giving them fits. And this is why I say he's the poor man's Terquavion, because he was pulling up from 28, 30 feet, knocking them down. So this is a young man that, again, Kam Woods, he's got the goods. He's got the stuff. And against College of Charleston, 60% from the field, 50% from deep, 30 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. This is a young man. He's got the goods. And I'll tell you this, with him not being the focal point, with him having the ability to, let's say DJ Burns is getting all the attention, they're collapsing on him, and you get to kick it out to this kind of guy. What do you think is going to happen there? Let's say that we see Jaden Taylor having a night where he's hot as fish grease. What do you think happens when you've got a guy like Kam Woods as your pressure release valve for the star player, when in essence he had to be that for A&T last year. There was no, hey, you be the pressure release valve. It was, you're the guy, period. Leading scorer on the team. This was the guy who was asked to do all of the things, and the leading assist man on the team as well. This is a guy who was asked to do all of the things with that team. So walking into a situation where you can potentially be a six-man instant offense off the bench, where you could potentially be a spot-up shooter to a situation of when the other guys are getting too much attention, you help them out. It'd be great. It'd be great for him.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly feels like a little bit of an upgrade. I guess if he is able to play here in 2023, it feels like a little bit of an upgrade in the situation where, if you had Trey Parker, maybe he faces some limited playing time. He is a freshman who's never seen the college game. So you take away Trey Parker, going back to the overtime elite, you get an experienced scorer here in Kam Woods, who's played 3 years of college basketball. In that particular spot there, I think that's an upgrade. So again, kudos to Keatts and the staff. Feels like a very good get, especially this late in the transfer / recruiting cycle. So very excited
100%.
about that addition there. This takes us to our ad read for today. Our ads, our brand sponsor for today is Birddogs. Summer is here, y'all, and you need to be looking your absolute best, and you can do just that in these Birddogs stretch khaki shorts. They are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh, giving your leg a truly sculpted look. I've been wearing them around. I've been getting some compliments. Kenton, I know you have your pairs. I'm sure you've been getting plenty of compliments. Birddogs out here doing their thing, so you can go out there and do your thing. If you're familiar with the fit of a Lululemon short, Birddog is very similar. My own personal opinion, they get it done a little bit better. They're above your average shorts. They don't have that stiff, restricting cotton that you'll see in a lot of shorts, especially in the summertime. It gets so hot. You need a short that keeps you cool when you're out there having your best summer life. So go out there and get you some pairs of Birddog shorts. All you need to do is go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Enter the promo code in all caps, LockedOnCollege, for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. Again, that's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you that. So, Kenton, in the second segment here, I stumbled across an article kind of outlining the top, 100 true freshmen this year in college football. You'll be delighted to hear that we did have some Wolfpack players on this list. I'll bring up, so this is the article from 247 Sports, just outlining the top 100 true freshmen you're going to see featured this year in college football. The two players they have highlighted for NC State, the first is Juice Vereen, who obviously we've highlighted several times on this program, friend of the program. Kenton, you've had him on here before. One of our top recruits coming in this year in 2023. This is, again, I've said this a billion times. I'm super excited at the idea of what Robert and I can do implementing Juice into this offense. Juice was very, very highly touted coming out of high school. A lot of high school coaches were on record saying, this is the best athlete on the field at all times when he's on it. Kind of been, I've mentioned before, we've had a little bit of an unconventional tight end use these past couple of years. We've kind of strayed away from your traditional big body on the end of the line. We've done a lot of, Swiss Army knife things with a Trent Penix, with a Jalen Samuels. But Juice is an athlete that can legitimately do it all. And that is why I'm so excited to get Robert and I to get implemented with Juice here. Kenton, what are your thoughts on Juice this coming year as a true freshman?
When I look at what Juice Vereen can bring, and you talk about Robert and I and how important he is into what Juice Vereen can be, I want to take a look at the past for a second, because we took a look at the past, or we take a look at the past a lot when it comes to Robert and I, because we talk about him reuniting with Brennan Armstrong and things along those lines. Well, let's do that again, just this time for the tight end position. The last tight end that Coach Robert and I coached was who?
Was it Gadsden up at Syracuse?
Oronde Gadsden II, whose father played in the NFL. And this is a young man, 6'5", 216, literally, virtually exact same measurements, just an inch taller, 6 pounds heavier, right? Okay. When you watch them play, watch them move. They move very similarly, right? But here's where it gets super interesting. When you go and look up how good Aronde Gaston was in the system of what was asked of him, or what was asked of him by Robert and I, guess who led all tight ends in the country in receiving yards?
Really?
Yeah. Aronde Gaston II. He
Wow.
was the leader in receiving yards of every single tight end. And
I do remember he torched us last year up at Syracuse.
well, don't feel bad. He torched everybody. That's my point. And this is not to praise Aronde Gaston, although the young man deserves praise. I'm gonna give praise where it's due, and that young man deserves it. This is more so saying, imagine what he can do with Juice, who I think is a little bit more fluid of an athlete than Aronde Gaston II. I think he's a little bit more fluid, and I think he's a little better with the ball in his hands after the catch. Now, is he as good at high point the ball? I would say not yet. Not what I saw on tape. But at the end of the day, that run after catch and the ability to make people miss and do things in space could be the difference here. So when I look at Javonte Vereen, when I look at Juice Vereen, and I talk about how he could be used with Robert and I mean, the sky is the limit, because like I said, the last tight end that Robert and I coached that came into that tweener between a slot receiver, tight end, hybrid type position that, guys like Jimmy Graham and Antonio Gates ushered in, he led the nation in receiving in terms of tight ends. Can we see a similar thing with Juice Vereen? I believe so.
And then the second newcomer they've listed from NC State is Kevin Concepcion, wide receiver. Another guy had a whole lot of buzz following him with his commitment to NC State and then entering his freshman year here. We've talked about it here before. I think wide receiver is going to be one of, maybe if not the most important group that this season's success is going to hinge a lot on. Of course, you have Brennan Armstrong who's got to distribute the rock, but I think there's going to be a massive spotlight on the wide receiving core this year. And I would like to see some Kevin Concepcion in that spotlight. He is, just a true freshman, but superb athlete, superb high point skills, can get going once he has the ball in his hands. I think I see a lot of groaning from NC State fans time and time again that Coach Dorn kind of has a little bit of a reputation to play seniority over younger talent. And I think there's some talking points that kind of, couple up with NIL and transfer portal when you have these younger guys. And, obviously you can't be your roster can't be held hostage by the idea of, well, if they don't play, then they're out of here. But, these younger talented guys like even like a Julian Gray or like a Jalen Coit, we have a lot of very young, kind of unproven wide receiver talent. And I think Kevin Concepcion is a prime example of sort of all of these guys, in that if they're able to crack I guess not the starting lineup, but get some significant run this year in 2023 to see what they can do. And especially they hit the ground running and they come out and they look awesome. That's just going to be an explosion of success for NC State, not just this year, but in these next couple of years to come as well. This helps with recruiting. This helps with, just brand perception, in that, we have a couple important official visits coming up with some wide receivers. This whole thing, it all ties in. And so I am expecting Kevin Concepcion to have a little bit of a Terrell Timmons-like year from last year, where we saw Timmons really break out by the end of the year. So I'm excited to see what Concepcion can do. Hopefully he gets a lot of playing time.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm surprised I didn't see Zach Myers on this list, because every time I hear about him, it's like what a freak of nature he is, regardless of where he's lined up on the field, defensively, offensively, special teams. But when I talk about Kevin Concepcion, you talk about, now you want to talk about a guy with the make you miss in him. You want to talk about a guy that can absolutely do it with the ball in his hands. You're talking about Kevin Concepcion, right? not necessarily the biggest guy in the world, but plays bigger than the 5'11" that he is. And then when you go beyond that, you're looking at a young man that at the end of the day, he is going to make an impact, or he's expected to make an impact right away. Reason, like they said, NC State is in need of receiving help. Great, you can come in and do that. But on top of that, it's not just about needing help. It's about he's a good player. He's a good player who can make good things happen. And in Robert Anae's system, one of the things that I absolutely love about Robert Anae and what I saw out of him at both Virginia and Syracuse, he gets the ball in playmakers' hands. Oh, what a time. What a time. I'm used to, I don't know if Robert Anae knows this, but there was a guy we used to have, okay? And we had to beg him to get the ball to a guy that was all over our record books out there at receiver. We used to have to beg and plead. Thayer is going to be open. Please get him the ball. And so, this is a situation where, again, Robert Anae gets the ball in playmakers' hands. And if these two are playmakers, they'll have opportunities with the ball in their hands. They'll have opportunities to do what they need to do after the catch. They'll have opportunities pushing the ball downfield as well when there is one-on-one coverage. So we will see if these two can get it done, because if it is to be, then it's up to them, and we'll see them get the opportunities to make these plays during the season.
Absolutely. We're going to round this thing out in our next segment, talk about some teams that we hate the most. I saw a couple entertaining tweets from this surface. We're going to touch on this after a quick word from our sponsors. So, Kenton, this last segment here, I saw this tweet kind of sparked a segment idea here. This is from the fan upstate. I believe this is a Clemson fan, or at least someone that lives in the state of South Carolina. But essentially brings up the point that every fan has a hierarchy of schools that they hate. And he proceeded to list his take on the top 5 teams that Clemson fans hate the most. So what do? You look internally. Who are the top 5 teams that NC State fans hate the most? And Kenton, you and I provided our takes on these. My top 5, of course, UNC. I put ECU at the 2 spot, and I'll explain why. They're just annoying, man. They're so annoying. They want to claim relevancy. They're just, they're
I think it's cute though. I think it's cute. Is. I like it. It's adorable. It's adorable. It's like the annoying little cousin that's like, oh, I'm going to be just like you when I grow up. And you're like, sure, kid, whatever. It's that type of deal. They're fans every time they beat us, extremely braggadocious, as if we're never going to beat them again, or oh yeah, we got you. Like, sure, good for you. Okay.
Yeah, I just they always get up for NC State every time we play them, regardless of sport.
Yep.
And it is entertaining. Sometimes they get us. They've given us several great games in several different sports over the years. So yeah, it's fun, but I think there's so much more to the rivalry than people want to admit. I think NC State fans probably dislike ECU a lot more than they'd be willing to admit, but that's why ECU is so high on my list. I have Wake Forest at 3, another one. Not so much, I guess the school's brand itself, but I just feel like there's been so many games these last, we'll call it in the last decade, where we have a potential to have, a very special season. And then Wake Forest comes in and ruins it. It feels like just about every single time.
Yeah.
And, football, we've had some back and forth battles there. Basketball has been pretty back and forth. I know Wake Forest baseball is on their way to Omaha. Wake Forest is another school that just annoys me. I don't like playing them. It just, I don't know. I get major ick there. Clemson, of course, makes the list with all the heated football battles we've had with them. Basketball, they seem to have our number. Baseball's pretty hit or miss. It's just, every time you play Clemson, it feels like an important game, regardless of sport. So, of course, they're on the list. And, I had to take this opportunity to shoot twice at UNC. That is how much I hate them. So, yes, they are on my list twice. Cannot stand them. Never will stand them. Don't like the color. Don't like the mascot. Don't like anything they stand for. They're on my list twice. But, Kenton, take the wheel here. Explain your top 5.
I mean, the top Self-explanatory. I don't like those guys. Funny. I'll give you a fun story of how deceitful those wonderful folks over there are. So there was a coach that I had originally committed to. I played high school football with his grandsons, and I committed to go to a school because that coach was there. His grandsons told me, "Dude, you don't want to be there. He's not going to be there." And so I decommitted from the school, and he said, "What's going on, man? I thought you were my guy." I said, "Listen, I'm getting word from your grandkids that you're probably going to be out of there, and so I'm a little worried about that." And he said, "Oh no, I would never. I wouldn't leave. I love it here." And a few years later, guess who I see on the sideline after we finished whooping the tails of UNC? The school I committed to was not UNC. It was not in the South. That is not what happened. So, just a fun little tidbit there. But now, Clemson, self-explanatory. Don't like those guys. Don't like anything about them. Don't like their fake. The world hates us. Shut up. Shut up. People actually do dislike you now because you couldn't just be like, hey, we're winners. We're better than you and we beat you. What about it? Maryland is a I don't like your face type of situation. You know, you ever met somebody that you two never quite set horses and you don't know why, but you just like, I just don't like you. Well, like our vibes just don't mesh. Maryland, that's the school. Don't like them. Don't care for them. You know, they're the only team in the top three that I would say like when they're playing on TV, the other team that they're playing is not then my favorite team. They're the only one in the top three who doesn't fall in that category. So congratulations for that, Maryland. Florida State, because I mean, I enjoy ruining Florida State's best years. It's such a great time. It's always a great time in that regard. And Wake Forest, just because like, shut up, nerds. That's like nobody likes you nerds. Like that's just what that is there. You're the second best school in the city of Winston-Salem.
Oh, now that's a take right there. Would
saying,
Stephen A. Smith agree with that?
Oh, Stephen A. Smith would definitely agree with it. You know, Stephen A. Smith is a Winston-Salem State grad, so I'm sure that he would agree with it. You know, and I don't like Wake Forest. Just don't like them.
It's funny. You putting Maryland in your list was popular with some of our Twitter followers. Got some responses on Maryland. Maryland is a good answer. I think if I didn't list UNC twice, I probably would have put Maryland at the 5 spot. Mm-hmm. Maryland's another school kind of similar to Wake Forest. And historically, there's been so many games that NC State needed to have in order to get somewhere, like the ACC championship in football. And it just felt like every single time we have momentum, we have a great team, we're having a great season, boom, Maryland ruins the whole freaking thing. Yep. And it's just countless examples. I don't really like their fan base either. I don't know. Their school's a dump. You can tell them I said that. Don't like Maryland. So yeah, I mean that was probably the most popular response to this we got, in that a lot of NC State fans still hold some distaste for Maryland from the former ACC days. It kind of still feels weird without Maryland being in the ACC, to be honest with you. But
and turtles are a gross animal, and your uniforms are ugly. Ooh. Your uniforms are super ugly.
Made it personal.
How are you sponsored by Under Armour? Your founder is a graduate of your university, and y'all continue to pump out the ugliest jerseys known to man.
Is it a flag thing? Not a fan of the flag?
Well, it's not even that the flag is bad. You don't need to combine every element of the flag on the uniform. The flag has multiple things happening. Maybe take one part of the flag and make that one alternate uniform. Then take another part of the flag and make that a separate alternate uniform. You don't need to combine all of it in one uniform. That's gross and hideous.
For more fashion advice, follow Kenton Gibbs at TGIF Kenton.
Listen, and here's the thing, right? I'm never the friend that's like, hey, call me Wrench because I be dressing. That's not me, right? But Maryland and their uniform designs, I mean, just so great. The only thing that I will ever give Maryland credit for is I like Grievous Vasquez a lot. He was dope. But everything else, you know what you did, Maryland.
All righty. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us on this Wednesday. As always, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked on Wolfpack. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you dropping a like, dropping a comment, smashing that subscribe button as we continue our climb toward further relevancy. It's been kind of great to see these subscriber numbers going up, our Twitter follower numbers going up. It's been awesome to interact with so many NC State fans on social media. And we're going to keep a lot of that going. We're going to start introducing these mailbag episodes soon. Please be on the lookout for that. I'll make sure that's very visible so we can start fielding some questions from some listeners and hear more of your thoughts. But as always, for Kenton Gibbs and myself, thank you for joining us. Go Pack.
Go Pack.